Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. Get ready to pay attention fast. Today's video is all about working smarter, not harder. I have a bunch of tips to share with you on how you can be a faster quilter. As I go through the making of today's baby quilt, I'm going to share with you all along the way the tips and methods with each part of the process. Let's start right off with a bonus tip. Here it is. Enough talking already. Let's get busy learning how to make our quilts faster. If you would like to make the exact quilt that I make in today's tutorial, then this is the yardage and the fabric that you will need to do so. Go ahead and take a screenshot. This tip will ensure all the wrinkles are out. Just layer and spray and press. Rinse and repeat. For this baby quilt, I am cutting out the main fabric as the focal point in one big square, and you can see the measurements right there along with the border measurements. Stack up your fat quarters on your cutting mat and trim the edges nicely. Here's a game-saving tip right here. You will need 2 long rulers for this tip. Line up one ruler, then add in another ruler, butting it up right against that other ruler, making sure that you are measuring at 2.5 inch in width. Then once you have your measurement, slice it. So there's absolutely no need to move your fabric, your mat, or move yourself to the other side of the table to do your cut. Take those strips of fabric and then lay them in combinations of 3. Switch it all up. Then you're going to take those to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Finger pressing your seams open right at the sewing machine is a huge time-saving tip. Trust me. This important tip will certainly save you a headache later. Whenever you sew strips together, be sure to start at one end, sew on a strip, and then turn it around and sew up the other side. You want to alternate between ends. Now cut your strip sets into 6.5 inch squares. This tip is easy. Be sure to line up your line on your ruler with the seam on your strip set on both of the seams, and then make your cut. Be sure to line up all of those seams with that ruler. We don't want crooked blocks, right? Time to feed the scrap bin again. This type of quilt is so fun to me because you can literally put the blocks wherever you like. There's absolutely no wrong placement. It's artistically how you see it. Here's an example of some of the blocks that I used in this quilt. You can totally mix this up any way that you like. You don't have to sew anything together to make one block when it's a filler block. A filler block is just that. It's just one big block several times over, peppered within the quilt. Here's a quick example of how I connect my quilt tops together. You are appliquing a letter like I am here. It's best if you do it on a smaller piece of fabric before it grows into one big quilt top. When you're appliquing with letters, open your computer up and print out the letter you need in the font that you'd like. Heat and Bond works best for applique in the purple package. This applique process is super easy. Just follow the directions on the package. Be sure to trace your letter on the flat side of this paper and make sure that it's laying backwards on that paper. Now what you're going to do is lay that down on the wrong side of the fabric and press it with the heat, and it sticks really good. And then you're going to just cut it out, throw that paper away, and you can see here it's a perfect letter. That sticky part is the part that gets stuck to the right side of the fabric. Test your letter in several spots just to make sure it's where you would like to place it. Once you're sure, press that applique right onto the fabric, and you see, sticks like glue. I always didn't take advantage of this tip, but I should have. Trust me when I tell you. For the stitch test, you're going to use the same product that you use in your real project. You see here I was really trying to get my zigzag stitch as close as I could to be manageable. You just never want to actually try your test on your real project because that's when things go really bad. And once I added that stabilizer to the back, everything was all good. And since I did the stitch test, I can very confidently stitch around this applique on my project with no worries. Take your time when you're going around curves, such as like the letter that I'm doing right now. There were many tight curves, but I just went slow on my pedal and took my time, and everything went perfectly around all of the curves. Here's a shot of the inside of the quilt top where I had sewn the applique on with the zigzag stitch. Everything looks great. When connecting the major rows on your quilt top, backstitch, backstitch, backstitch on both ends. One of the most annoying things to me in quilting is when you go to put on a border and you notice your seams are coming apart farther than the 1/4 inch mark that would totally close it up with the border. So yeah, backstitch on those rows. Since I'm using Minky today, I'm going to use a piece of batting on the back of my quilt top. I'm going to pin it down all over just like I would if I was sandwiching everything together, and then I'm free motion quilting the different patterns on the quilt that I would like to see on there. Now I know that not everyone is comfortable free motion quilting, but I encourage you, just give it a try, even on a small project like this. But if you don't want to, no worries, just skip this entire process and go right to the next step. And hey, that makes an even quicker quilt. I just wanted to let you know here in this part of the video how I start my free motion quilting, typically in the lower right hand side of the quilt, and then I work my way up and left and then to the rest of the quilt. But there are some times where I do start in the center of the quilt, so I guess it just all depends. After you're done free motion quilting, trim the corners and the sides of the batting off to meet the border. Now it's time to add in the Minky. You're going to put right sides together, right sides of the Minky and right side of your quilt top. Now there is a right and wrong side on the Minky, so be careful on that one. You want the prettier side. Placing your pins a few inches from where you are actually going to sew your seam will ensure faster sewing at the sewing machine. No need to take out any pins as you sew. Once those two pieces are all sewn together, now it's time to trim off the excess Minky. Once everything is all trimmed up, then it will be time to take out all of those pins all at one time. After that, turn your project right side out. Taking the time to roll out all of those seams with your fingers and clipping them will ensure a faster top stitch when we get to the sewing machine, and things will lay a lot nicer. It'll look more professional. Don't forget, close up your seams as you top stitch. Now it's time to tack the two pieces together, just in different random places all over the quilt. This will ensure that it does not gape. Each one of my tacks were in the seams, and it was about 1 inch in length. Tell me in the comments, which of my tips did you know already, and which of my tips did you just learn today? Take a look at your screen right now. I have hand-picked a few videos just for you if you enjoyed this video today. Go ahead, click on one, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.